The movie begins in 1950 in Brazil, where we meet a little boy named Deco who is polishing shoes. After that, his friends call him to go and play football together. Deco leaves his job and runs to join them. These children live in a poor neighborhood, and their financial situation is so difficult that they cannot afford to buy a ball to play with. So, they sometimes have to steal clothes from the neighbors and use them as a ball by putting them inside socks. The children start playing with these balls, exchanging them skillfully, and kicking them in the air so that they touch the ground, a style of play known as ginka, which was invented by Brazilian football players. Brazilians are known to be the most football-loving people in the world. In the next scene, we see a group of people gathered in a cafe listening to a match on the radio. Among them is Dandinho, Deco's father. This was the 1950 World Cup final between Brazil and Uruguay, and everyone was hoping that Brazil would win the tournament. Unfortunately, Brazil lost, and Uruguay won the World Cup, which made everyone feel sad. Dandinho was very upset and crying, and when Deco saw his father crying, he promised him that one day he would fulfill Brazil's dream of winning the World Cup. His father smiled and said to him, "Listen to your mother's advice and focus on your studies." The next day, his mother, Celeste, took Deco to her work as a cleaner in a big house, while she cleaned. Celeste expressed to Deco her admiration for his father, noting that she fell in love with him while watching him play football, as he was not only an exceptional player but also the most admirable person on the team. But injuries ruined his career and kept him away from the team. Football does not provide a certainty of financial stability or a reliable livelihood. Therefore, I advise against pursuing a career in football. Then Celeste goes to clean another room and tells Deco to finish that room. Meanwhile, Jose, the son of the family, enters with some of his friends, and they talk about a football tournament that will be held, which is organized by a man named Vladimir. Vladimir launched this tournament to discover young talents and send them to play in the Brazilian club Santos. Deco was focused on them, and Jose and his friends say that Vladimir will discover each one of them based on the way they play, which is similar to the way a certain player plays. Deco intervenes and says that the way I play is similar to Pele, so Jose and his friends start to make fun of him and tell him that his name is not Pele, but they decide to call him Pele and laugh at him. Then they throw the ball in the bucket of water and sit around Deco. Celeste enters and tells Deco not to do anything else and order him to leave. At this moment, Deco quickly picks up the advertisement for Vladimir's tournament and goes to gather his friends to form a 5-side team and participate in the tournament, while Jose and his friends are also participating. The team starts their first match in the tournament and manages to win 1-0, with Deco scoring the goal. This is the first time they ever play with a real football instead of a softball. The team performs well, enabling them to reach the final match against Jose's team, who mocks them for playing without shoes and suggests that they call them the barefoot team. Everyone laughs and makes fun of Deco's team. Here Deco urges his team to get shoes to play, but one of them replies that they don't have money to buy shoes. Then one of them comes up with the idea of stealing some peanuts and selling them. Deco and his friends do the stealing without the workers noticing, but the workers discover it and start chasing them. The boys manage to escape by passing under an iron fence and go to their neighborhood to sell peanuts. Jose comes to them and starts mocking them, calling Deco Pele, which angers Deco, who refuses the name. He quarrels with Jose, and a fight starts between the boys. Upon returning home, Deco deceives his mother by claiming that the teacher punished him in the school and omits the fact that he took part in a football tournament. Dandinho, Deco's father, was aware of his son's involvement but chose not to inform his mother. Instead, he spoke with Deco, offering encouragement and expressing his aspirations for him to become a professional football player. As the final match against Jose's team approaches, Deco's friend provides the shoes they will play with. Unfortunately, the shoes are not suitable for their sizes. While the two teams compete, Jose's team manages to score 3 goals at the beginning of the match. Vladimir, who is in charge of selecting talents, is present to watch the match. However, the team had difficulty playing because of the shoes they were wearing. But Deco's father was sure that his son would show his skills to everyone. While Jose was scoring goals one after the other, Deco decided to take off his shoes and play barefoot. From that moment on, Deco began to perform better, showing off the skills he acquired playing in the streets and narrow alleys. He managed to dribble past Jose's team and scored the first goal for his team, surprising the audience with his brilliant talent. After that, all the team decided to take off their shoes and play barefoot, and they performed brilliantly, as Deco scored one goal after another, and no one could stop him. The match ended with Jose's team winning 6-5 because the referee blew the final whistle before they could equalize, which disappointed Deco, who said that they deserved to win. But the crowd started cheering for them, calling him Pele, which made him happy and proud, while Jose was upset that no one cared about him. After that, we saw Vladimir giving a call card to Deco's father, impressed with Pele's performance, and wanting to include him in his team. Suddenly, the workers from whom the children stole the peanuts appear, so Pele and his friends run away while the workers chase them. Pele and his friend hide in a hole, and it was raining heavily. Suddenly the hole fell on them, and they got stuck. Pele managed to get out, but his friend remained stuck. He called the workers to save him, but it was too late. At that moment, Pele, who feels guilty, told his mother that he would commit to his studies and help his father at work, and would not play football anymore. As time went by, Pele began assisting his father in cleaning the hospital, choosing to forego playing football with his friends. He would often walk past them, observing their games, yet he resolved to concentrate on his education and work responsibilities. His father frequently shared stories of his own youth, recalling how he used the manga to develop his balance, and he consistently urged Pele to reconsider his passion for football. Pele listened to his father's advice and started practicing with the manga, and over the years, he acquired new skills, and his level improved significantly after his training. He always played with his father after work, and one day, his mother Celeste saw that he was happy playing, so she took out Vladimir's card that they kept with them all the time. Celeste went to bring Vladimir to watch Pele's talent and talk to him about Pele. When Pele returned home, he found that Vladimir was at his house, so Vladimir said to him, "How about you come to the Santos team trials?" Pele was surprised by what he heard and realized that his mother was the one who brought Vladimir. Pele accepted Vladimir's offer and then said goodbye to his family because he was going to travel to start his professional career. Pele joined the club's trials and was accepted into the Santos youth team, but he had a hard time adapting to the new style of play, as he was used to the Jinka style, while the coach wanted to implement a European style. Pele felt frustrated because he did not fit in with the team or the coach's method. One day, Pele decided to return to his hometown, abandoning his aspirations. However, Vladimir spotted him at the train station and hurried over to inquire, "Why are you leaving?" Pele explained that he struggled to connect with his teammates, and felt out of sync with the European coach's approach, who viewed him as a traditional player. In response, Vladimir shared a historical tale. During the Portuguese occupation of Brazil, the locals were enslaved. Many escaped into the forests, where they developed a self-defense technique called capoeira. Over time, this evolved into a unique style of play that Brazilians referred to as Jinka. But in the 1950 World Cup, we were defeated by Uruguay, which prompted the coach to move away from the Jinka style of play, which he considered the reason for that loss. The coach at your club does not want anyone to play the Jinka style and prefers to follow his traditional style. But Vladimir assures that he believes in Deco and sees that the Jinka style inside him is strong, so he must believe in himself. And if he cannot do that, he must go back to his family. Then Vladimir leaves him and leaves. After this conversation, Pele decided to return to Santos. Pele was torn between the Jinka style of play and the European style. During the match, he collided with a player and fell to the ground, which made him remember his father, who was coaching him. Pele regained his self-confidence and began to show his great talent, telling himself that he could play and win because he is Pele. He switched between the Jinka style of play and the European style, danced in front of the players, and scored a wonderful goal with a scissors kick. After that, the coach contacted him and remarked, "What an impressive performance! Return to the field and keep playing at this level." Pele's joy and self-confidence increased with the coach's words, and he began to play with great skill, scoring 4 goals in that match. Pele proved himself to be one of the exceptional players, while his father listened to his matches on the radio, in disbelief at what his son was achieving, and he was overjoyed. Every day after the training, Pele would train alone at night, and with each match, he became the team's top scorer, even though he was still 16 years old. Subsequently, Pele took a break and rejoined his family, presenting them with various gifts, among which was a new radio for his father to enjoy listening to his matches. The next day, Pele and Dondinho were sitting to listen to the list of players who would participate with the Brazilian national team in the 1958 World Cup. Pele was expressing his surprise, as he thought that he would not be selected because he was still 16 years old. While listening, the announcer mentioned the names of the players until he reached the last name, which was Mazzola, who was the youngest player on the team at 19 years old. Pele was disappointed that he was not selected, but suddenly the announcer announced a mistake, as the youngest player on the team is Deco, who is 16 years old and nicknamed Pele. Pele was shocked by the news and could not believe what he heard and remained silent and unable to move from the shock of the surprise. He then traveled with his country's team to attend a press conference, where he met Mazzola, who turned out to be Jose, the person who used to make fun of him when he was young. During the conference, one of the journalists asked the players about their style of play, whether it would be the Jinka style or another style. Pele replied that they would play with the Jinka style, but the coach of the national team intervened and took the microphone from Pele, explaining that they would not play with the Jinka style, because it was a street style, but rather they would play with a sophisticated European style. After that, the coach took Pele aside and told him that the Jinka style had worked for him at Santos, but it would not work against the strong European teams. Pele tried to talk, but the coach refused to listen to him and confirmed that the Jinka style would not be adopted and that this was a final decision. Then the players went to training, but the coach had not yet determined the starting lineup, so he conducted tests on the players to choose the most suitable. Unfortunately, Pele did not perform well, as he was distracted and unable to play with the coach's style, which made him doubt himself and his abilities. Despite this, he decided not to listen to the coach and play with the Jinka style. However, during training, he suffered a serious injury, which made him feel that his future in football was fading away. He called his parents to express his concern, but his mother encouraged him and told him that things would get better. Pele receives support and encouragement from everyone, as he is told that they are all with him, and that he has made his decision about football and that he must continue to achieve his dream. The 1958 World Cup begins, as Sweden faces Mexico in the opening match, while Brazil achieves a great victory over Austria with a score of 3-0. However, in the next match between Brazil and England, 3 Brazilian players are injured, including Mazzola, which makes the coach decide to include Pele in the match even though he has not fully recovered from his injury. In the next match, against the Soviet Union, Pele entered the field feeling distracted and anxious, as it was his first match with the national team. He was afraid that the injury he was suffering from would affect him. While his father was in the cafe and watched Pele play poorly, fortunately, Brazil managed to win that match with a score of 2-0. But the next match was difficult, as Brazil faced France in the World Cup semi-final. Pele continued to play with fear, and the first half ended with France leading 1-0. During the break, Jose told him, "You are the one who will win the match. If you believe in yourself, you will be able to win." Pele was convinced by Jose's words and began to play in a distinctive way, despite the risks that might cause him injury. Pele managed to pass several players and scored the equalizer for Brazil, which increased his self-confidence. Then he added the second goal, and Pele's talent was clearly evident, as he scored the third goal to achieve a hat-trick amidst the madness of the crowd. With that, Brazil qualified for the final to face the Swedish team, which is one of the strongest teams in the tournament. After that, Dondinho spoke to Pele on the phone, praising his performance in the last match, and assured him that this was the confidence he needed. At that moment, he said to him, "It's time for you to show your skills, Pele. You have to prove to everyone that you are a special player and be confident in yourself. Return to your homeland with the World Cup." Pele was excited by his father's words, and the next day, he went to his teammates while they were eating and said to them, "Let's play football until we reach the lighthouse on the sea, and we will play the Jinka style." The players agreed and started playing the Jinka style, passing the ball among themselves. They left the hotel, passed through the kitchen, and came out. The coach watched them silently and did not interfere as he saw their high skills in the Brazilian Jinka style. He began to think about the possibility of changing his style of play to be similar. While Pele was playing, he dropped a man's drink, and it turned out that this man was the real Pele, who appeared in an honorary role in the film. The next day, the coach met with the players and told them that we had two ways to play, either the European style, which would lead us to lose, or the Jinka style, which would lead us to win. He assured them that he wanted to show the world the Brazilian style and skill and that he would show them the beautiful game. The players were delighted when they realized that the coach had chosen the Jinka method. The day of the World Cup final between Sweden and Brazil came, where Brazil wore the blue jersey as guests of Sweden, the hosts. Sweden scored the first goal at the beginning of the match, and Pele looked at the Brazilian fans, who were few in number, but he remembered his family, friends, and everyone who wished Brazil to win the World Cup. Pele focused and played for those who wished joy for their country, and showed off his talent in the Jinka style. Brazil managed to score the equalizer, and minutes later, they added the second goal. Brazil surprised the world with its unique style, and the Brazilian fans celebrated with great joy. Then Pele scored the third goal, followed by the fourth goal, and Pele concluded by scoring the fifth goal. Thus, Brazil won its first World Cup, which led to hysterical joy among the fans, as everyone cried with joy, and Dandinho was very proud of his son, as the Brazilian team players celebrated Pele, who was credited with achieving the victory. The term, "the beautiful game," was coined at that time thanks to Pele's skills and professionalism, marking the beginning of the Pele legend. Pele had promised his father 8 years ago that he would win the World Cup for his country. He was the youngest player to participate in the history of the World Cup, and over time, Pele managed to bring the World Cup to his country 2 more times, becoming the only player in history to win 3 World Cups. The goals shown in the film are presented in the same way Pele scored his goals, and then real footage of him after winning the World Cup in 1958 is shown. And with that, we have reached the end of the episode.